Before building out our profile screen, we should figure out what user information we want to show. Looking at the image, we can see we have the username, a user bio, the number of posts the user has, the number of followers, and the number of users following. We also need a profile image URL to show the user's profile image. And then of course, we also store the email of the user when they sign up. Let's create our user model. Inside of the models folder, let's make userModel.dart. In models, make sure you export it. And here we're going to define class user extends equatable. We're going to have our final string ID, final string username, final string email, final string profile image URL, and then we're going to have an integer for followers and an integer for the number following. And then lastly, we're going to have a string for the bio. We're not going to include a list of posts or the number of posts inside of our user model because we're going to be fetching that separately later on. Let's create our constructor. And this will be a const constructor. We can import the missing override, which is the props method. And here let's add in all the different fields. So ID, username, email, profile image URL, followers, following, and bio. As we talked about before, we don't need to add the stringify method, and that's because inside of main.dart, we have equatable config where we set stringify equal to kdebug mode, and that's true if the app is built in debug mode and false otherwise. Now let's define our copy width by generating that. And now we have our copy width function. And one more thing we're going to define here underneath our constructor is an empty variable. And this will just be equal to an empty user. So the ID would be an empty string. Username is an empty string. Email is an empty string. Profile image URL, empty string. Followers would be 0. Following is 0. And then lastly, the bio is an empty string. And now we're going to add two methods, one being toDocument, and toDocument allows us to convert the user model into a JSON that Firebase can take in and create a document out of. The other one is going to be a factory constructor called fromDocument, and that's going to take in a document snapshot from Firebase and convert that into our user model. So let's write toDocument. This will return string dynamic, toDocument, and here we just return username equal to the current username, email is equal to the current email, profile image URL is equal to profile image URL, followers, following, and lastly we have bio. The reason we exclude ID from here is because inside of our Firebase document, we don't want the ID field inside of the document. The ID is already part of the document and can already be accessed once we have the actual document snapshot. And we'll see that in a second. So let's go here, factory user.fromDocument takes in a document snapshot. And to use a document snapshot, we need to import Cloud Firestore. The first thing we should check is if the document that's passed in is equal to null, and if it is, then we just return null. Otherwise, we can get the data off the document by doing doc.data. And that's going to give us back a map string dynamic that's going to look just like this. Now we can return our user. And first, let's define the ID. And this will just be doc.id. If we hover over ID, we can see it's the document's given ID for this document snapshot. Next we have username, and we can get that by accessing the username on the data. And if there's no username, then we want to use the nullWhere operator and set it to an empty string. Next, we need to do this for email and profile image URL. So I'm going to copy these two. Email, profile image URL, and then let's also do bio. We have followers, data followers, and if it's null, then we want it to be 0. One more thing we should do is actually wrap our data followers in parentheses, and then make sure we call .toInt. And the reason we have to do this is because followers is of type integer. But Firestore doesn't store integers or doubles, it stores a number. So when we access followers on data, we're getting back a number, and then we need to make sure to convert this number type to an integer. Let's do the same for following. And now we're all done with our user model. In the next video, we're going to work on the user repository, where we're going to be fetching and updating user documents.